Roman Reigns is a Paul Heyman guy. I am very excited, and I am also Ross Twiddell from Cultaholic.com. And even though Roman Reigns being a Paul Heyman guy is probably the biggest slice of wrestling news in the world of professional wrestling here on this Saturday morning, we here at Cultaholic, we have both graded and WTF moments for last night's SmackDown coming up later today. So what's the point in repeating ourselves? Sam and myself will be speaking about Roman Reigns being a Paul Heyman guy at length later on today. So aside from Roman Reigns being a Paul Heyman guy, here are your monumental Saturday morning headlines. We have Vince McMahon's backstage reaction to Dominic Mysterio's in-ring debut at WWE SummerSlam 2020. Was it good? Sure. Or was it bad? Sure. We have the latest on the attempted kidnapping case involving Sonya Deville. And we learn the rules AEW fans must adhere to inside Daly's place for Dynamite tapings. Now, after the angle at Survivor Series 2019, after that beatdown he took from Brock Lesnar on a random episode of Monday Night Raw, and after everything he's done alongside Seth Rollins and Murphy in the build-up to SummerSlam 2020 on WWE Raw, once again, one thing we definitely did see coming at the biggest party of the summer was Dominic Mysterio being good at the wrestling. Dom's street fight against the Monday Night Messiah. It was absolutely fantastic, and even though Seth Rollins, he did walk away with the win, Dom was the winner in all of our hearts. Well, my pal Alex McCarthy from TalkSport has been speaking to Prince Mysterio himself, where we found out that Jamie Noble produced that street fight at SummerSlam and played a massive part in what we saw during that match. On top of that, we've also found out what Vince McMahon's reaction was to the match from Dom himself, and here's what he told Alex. I was really happy with the match, but the backstage reaction was crazy. I got very emotional, hugged me mum, hugged me dad, hugged Jamie, Seth, the whole deal. Everyone was very happy and clapping for me, so it was a surreal moment. I definitely gave the boss man of WWE, of course, who is Vince McMahon. What a condescending arsehole I am. I definitely gave the boss man a hug afterwards and thanked him for the opportunity. It was just a crazy experience. From seeing other people and other wrestlers finish their matches and walk through Gorilla and hug Vince and stuff like that, having that be my turn to do it, I'm forever grateful. And I tell you what, Dominic was speaking about that reaction backstage being very surreal. I imagine it was very surreal for Vince McMahon himself. Vince McMahon and other backstage people, of course, in WWE were around back in 2005 when Dominic was such a little boy, and now here in 2020 he's putting on potentially a show-stealing match at one of the old fabled Big Four pay-per-views. How surreal must that be? And I guess that we can infer from Dominic going in for a hug with Vince McMahon and Vince McMahon not pushing him away and berating him like only Vince McMahon could, that Vince McMahon was a massive fan of that street fight between Seth Rollins and Dominic Mysterio. We've all seen the reaction from Vince McMahon towards Kevin Owens after Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 33. So after knowing now that Dominic went in for the hug and got it, it's lovely to hear that Vince McMahon was a fan of that match. It was indeed good shit. But now on to more serious news, and on Thursday a temporary injunction hearing was held in relation to the attempted kidnapping of WWE superstar Sonya Deville. And via Wrestling Inc. we have learned that Sonya's temporary protection injunction, which is essentially a restraining order against the accused, has been extended until at least November the 12th at 10 a.m, which is the next time Sonya is due to be in court. Of course, we already knew that the accused had been denied a $2 million bail because the judge deemed that he was still a threat to the community. Sonya has also filed a motion to have certain evidence sealed, which includes messages identifying her family members as well as photos which contain her home address. The accused, of course, remains incarcerated inside Hillsborough County Jail, accused of aggravated stalking, armed burglary of a dwelling, armed kidnapping for ransom or reward or hostage, and a criminal mischief for less than $200. As for Sonya, of course, she lost a loser leaves WWE match against Mandy Rose at SummerSlam last last weekend. Mandy, of course, was also inside the house when the attempted kidnapping took place, so the fact those two women were able to not only work the SmackDown before SummerSlam, but put on a headline match at SummerSlam itself is only testament to how strong they both are. Me personally, I just hope that both Sonya and Mandy take all the time off from WWE that they need to not only get their heads right, but to get their affairs in order as well. It goes without saying, their work over the past few months with microphone especially, and clippers in hand, has been absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait to see them back in action. But now on to less serious news and learn your rules. You better learn your rules. If you don't, you'll be eaten in your sleep. Not my words, not even the words of Dwight K. Schrute, but these are the words of AEW head honcho himself, Tony Khan. And we know this because Ravy Davey Meltzer, inside this week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, has obtained a copy of the letter Tony Khan sent to each and every fan who attended this week's AEW Dynamite taping. Every single fan inside Daly's Place were told to adhere to the following list of rules. Masks required at all times except when eating or drinking. Fans could only eat or drink while sitting in their assigned seat or a seating area. Masks must completely cover the mouth and the nose. Guests who fail to comply were subject to ejection. Cars could only be parked in every other parking lot spot. Masks were recommended in the parking lot and tailgating was prohibited. No liquids or beverages were allowed inside, but food was permitted provided it was unwrapped and inside a 1-gallon clear plastic bag. Everyone had to have their own mobile ticket, concessions were cashless and smoking was prohibited. Those were the rules. Now I found a glaring issue here because as a man who watches every single second of AEW Dynamite every single week, guests who fail to comply with masks covering the mouth and the nose at the same time, they are subject to ejection. So many times each and every week we see the fans at the start of the show point out somebody who isn't covering the nose or the mouth or even both at the same time, and then come the end of the show when the crowd show once again they're still not covering the nose and the mouth. So that rule shocked me, so it did. But while we're here speaking about all things AEW, Tony Khan himself took to Twitter to confirm that this week's episode of AEW Dynamite is back to its regular time slot and won't be shifted because of those no good sporting events that are taking place in the America right now. And before we go, let's just give you the latest WWE Payback card coming out, of course, of last night's SmackDown. Of course, we already knew that Bayley and Sasha Banks were going to defend their women's tag team titles against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. How will those tag team partners ever coexist? United States champion Apollo Crews will be defending his title against Bobby Lashley. Of course, Shelton Benjamin, an MVP of the Hurt Business, will be ringside. Then we have the Fiend Bray Wyatt, the Universal Champion, of course, taking on brand new, fresh, massive teeth, lovely looking, 10 out of 10, Roman Reigns. Oh my God. And then Braun Strowman as well in a no-holds-barred triple threat match for that Universal title. Keith Lee, hopefully with his old attire back and some new fantastic music. Now, of course, the WWE are urging their talents to get away from CFO $ music. By the way, myself and Adam Pacitti, we are doing a tier list ranking this weekend of not every single, most of the big hits from CFO $ in WWE history. They are better than a lot of people give them credit for. Fantastic from CFO $. And then new matches added to the card. We have Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio taking on the Monday Night Messiah himself, Seth Rollins and Murphy, in a tag team match. And then on top of that, we have Matt Riddle versus King Corbin. Payback is still just a WWE pay-per-view that is happening. And that's it for your Saturday morning headlines. Once again, thank you very much for joining me. I have been Ross Twiddell from Cultaholic.com. As I said earlier on, coming up later today on the channel, Graded with Sam Driver for SmackDown. I'll be here with the WTF moments for Friday Night SmackDown. But bloody hell, Paul Heyman has now got Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is a Paul Heyman guy. I'll see you soon.